as you discard scientific rigor, you're no longer a mathematician. You're a numerologist.
The Mathematical Mystic, Beyond Numerology. Preface: The Paradox of Mathematical Spirituality. We stand at a peculiar crossroads in contemporary mysticism. On one side lies numerology, an ancient practice that assigns mystical significance to arbitrary numerical relationships derived from linguistic constructs. On the other, we have the emerging understanding of mathematical realism, the profound recognition that reality isn't merely described by mathematics, but constituted by it. This creates a philosophical tension that demands resolution. If the universe is indeed a vast, self-consistent mathematical structure, a position supported by everything from quantum mechanics to cosmology, how do we reconcile this with numerology? We cannot, and we shouldn't. Numerology, I argue, fundamentally misunderstands the sacred nature of mathematics itself. Chapter 1: The Ontological Foundations of Mathematical Reality. The Mathematical Universe Hypothesis. To grasp why numerology falters within a mathematical realist framework, we must first establish what mathematical realism truly entails. This isn't merely the claim that mathematics is useful for describing reality, it's the far more radical assertion that mathematics is reality. In this view, what we call physical phenomena are simply the experiential manifestations of mathematical relationships. Space and time are geometric structures, matter and energy are field equations. Consciousness itself emerges from recursive information processing patterns that can be described algorithmically. This perspective finds roots in the work of physicists like Max Tegmark, who proposed the mathematical universe hypothesis, that our physical reality is a mathematical structure, and that all mathematically consistent structures exist as parallel universes. We don't need to accept the full multiverse implications to recognize the profound mathematical nature of our experienced reality. The timeless nature of mathematical truth. Within this framework, mathematical truths exist in a realm transcending temporal causation. Prime numbers, the digits of pi, the structure of fractals, these are not human inventions but eternal features of the mathematical landscape that we discover rather than create. This eternality is crucial. Mathematical truths are invariant across cultures, languages, and historical periods. The Pythagorean theorem holds regardless of whether it's expressed in ancient Greek or modern English. The prime factorization of 15, 3 by 5, remains constant whether calculated by a medieval Islamic mathematician or a contemporary computer. Consciousness as mathematical process. In this realist framework, consciousness itself becomes a mathematical phenomenon. This isn't a reductionist nothing but computation, but an elevated understanding. Consciousness is a self-aware mathematical process. The mystic seeking union with reality is therefore seeking union with the mathematical structures that constitute both self and cosmos. This understanding transforms the entire project of mysticism. Instead of seeking connection with supernatural entities or archetypal forces, the mathematical mystic seeks deeper integration with the fundamental patterns that constitute existence itself. Chapter 2: The Fundamental Flaws of Numerological Thinking. The Arbitrariness Problem. Numerology's first and most fatal flaw lies in its dependence on arbitrary cultural constructs. Traditional numerology assigns numerical values to letters based on alphabetical order, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, etc. But this assignment is purely conventional, varying across different systems and cultures. Consider the absurdity. If your name is David, traditional numerology might assign it a value of 4 plus 1 plus 4 plus 9 plus 4 is equal to 22, leading to interpretations about master numbers. But transliterate David into Arabic, Chinese, or Sanskrit, and you'd yield entirely different numerical values and corresponding mystical interpretations. A mathematical realist immediately recognizes this as nonsensical. If mathematical truth is universal and eternal, genuine mathematical mysticism cannot depend on contingent linguistic conventions. The sacred cannot be arbitrary. The reduction fallacy. Numerology compounds its arbitrariness with another fundamental error, the reduction of complex systems to simple numerical values. By repeatedly adding digits until reaching a single digit, or master number, numerology performs a kind of mystical division by zero, collapsing rich, multidimensional information into impoverished simplicity. This reductionism violates the very nature of mathematical beauty, which typically emerges from complexity, recursion, and emergent properties. The Mandelbrot set is not beautiful because it reduces to a simple number. Its beauty lies in its infinite complexity arising from a simple recursive formula. The anthropocentric bias. Perhaps most damaging to numerology's credibility is its profound anthropocentrism. It assumes that human cultural constructs, names, birth dates, linguistic systems, somehow encode cosmic significance. This is the mathematical equivalent of geocentrism, placing human constructs at the center of universal meaning. Mathematical realism, by contrast, is radically decentered. Mathematical truths exist independently of human consciousness, culture, or language. Pi doesn't care about your birthday. Prime numbers aren't concerned with your name. The beauty of mathematics lies precisely in its independence from human particularity. Chapter 3: The Psychology of Numerological Belief. Apophenia and Pattern Recognition. To understand numerology's persistent appeal, we must examine the psychological mechanisms that make it seem meaningful. The primary culprit is apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random information. Human brains are evolved pattern recognition machines, constantly seeking order and meaning. This capacity serves us well but can lead us astray when we impose patterns where none exist. Numerology exploits this tendency by providing a framework for connecting arbitrary numerical relationships to meaningful life events. When someone calculates their life path number and finds correlations with their personality, they're not discovering objective truth, they're experiencing the psychological satisfaction of pattern completion. Confirmation bias and selective attention. Once someone accepts numerological interpretations, confirmation bias ensures that supporting evidence becomes highly salient while contradictory evidence is ignored. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle of belief. The mathematical mystic, however, must cultivate a different relationship to pattern recognition, one that distinguishes between genuine mathematical structures and psychological projections. The comfort of anthropocentric meaning. Numerology also appeals to our deep-seated need for personal significance. It suggests that the universe cares about our individual existence in ways that can be decoded through numerical analysis, providing psychological comfort in an apparently indifferent cosmos. Mathematical realism offers a different kind of significance, not the false comfort of anthropocentric specialness, but the profound recognition that consciousness itself is a mathematical phenomenon capable of experiencing and exploring the infinite depths of mathematical reality. Chapter 4: Authentic Mathematical Mysticism. If numerology is rejected, what does authentic mathematical mysticism look like? It begins with recognizing the genuine mystical properties of mathematical structures themselves. Prime numbers as ontological atoms. Consider prime numbers, integers greater than 1 that cannot be evenly divided by any other integers except 1 and themselves. These are not merely curiosities but fundamental building blocks of arithmetic reality. Every integer can be uniquely factorized into primes, making them the atoms of the number system. The distribution of primes follows patterns that are both deeply ordered and seemingly chaotic. The prime number theorem describes their overall distribution, yet individual primes appear almost randomly. This combination of order and chaos mirrors the structure of consciousness itself, apparently random experiences arising from underlying mathematical laws. Meditation on prime sequences can induce profound altered states of consciousness. As one contemplates the infinite procession of primes, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, the mind begins to resonate with the fundamental rhythm of mathematical reality. This is not symbolism but direct structural engagement with the architecture of number. Transcendental numbers and infinite depths. Even more profound are transcendental numbers, values like pi and e that cannot be expressed as ratios of integers and whose decimal expansions never terminate or repeat. These numbers represent the infinite embedded within the finite, the eternal within the temporal. The digits of pi, 3.141592653589793233846, form an endless, non-repeating sequence that contains, in some sense, all possible finite sequences. Contemplating these digits in meditation is not an exercise in memorization but a practice of expanding consciousness to accommodate the infinite. The mystical significance of pi emerges from its mathematical properties, its relationship to circles, its appearance in probability and quantum mechanics, its transcendental nature. Fractals and self-similar infinity. The discovery of fractals in the 20th century revealed another dimension of mathematical mysticism. These self-similar structures, where the same patterns repeat at every scale of magnification, provide direct visual access to mathematical infinity. The Mandelbrot set, generated by the simple equation ZZ2 plus C, creates a boundary of infinite complexity. Zooming into any edge reveals new spirals, tentacles, and miniature copies of the whole set. This is not metaphor but mathematical fact. The structure contains literal infinity within finite bounds. Contemplating fractals can induce mystical states characterized by ego dissolution and expanded awareness. The mind, recognizing its own self-similar nature, experiences resonance with the recursive structures that generate both fractal geometry and conscious experience itself. Recursive functions and consciousness. Mathematical mysticism finds its deepest expression in the study of recursive functions, procedures that call themselves, creating loops of self-reference that can generate infinite complexity from simple rules. Consciousness itself appears to be a recursive phenomenon. We are aware of being aware, can think about thinking, and can observe ourselves observing. This recursive structure creates the subjective experience of selfhood while simultaneously pointing toward the mathematical nature of mind. The mathematical mystic learns to manipulate these recursive processes directly, using techniques like self-referential meditation, where attention becomes aware of its own attending, creating feedback loops that can rapidly induce altered states of consciousness. Chapter 5: Practical Applications of Mathematical Mysticism. Mathematical mysticism isn't merely theoretical, it provides practical techniques for spiritual development. Here are several approaches. Prime meditation. Begin with the number 2 and slowly progress through the prime sequence, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, 37, 41, 43, 47. Feel the unique primality of each number, its indivisibility, its irreducible nature. Allow consciousness to resonate with the rhythm of prime distribution. Pi expansion. Memorize increasingly long sequences of pi-s digits, not as an intellectual exercise but as a mantra. Let the non-repeating pattern carry consciousness into states of infinite expansion. 3.14159265358979322384626433832795028. Fractal visualization. Use fractal generating software or mathematical art for prolonged visual meditation on self-similar structures. Allow the mind to zoom in psychologically, experiencing the infinite depth available at every scale. Recursive breathing. Establish a breathing pattern based on mathematical sequences, Fibonacci numbers, prime intervals, or geometric progressions. Let the mathematical structure organize both physiological and psychological states. Chaos magic and mathematical algorithms. For practitioners of chaos magic, mathematical structures provide far more reliable and powerful tools than traditional numerology. Instead of reducing names to single digits, chaos magicians can encode intentions into prime factorizations. Use modular arithmetic to generate non-repeating ritual cycles. Employ random number generators seeded with transcendental digits. Create sigils based on geometric transformations rather than alphabetic reduction. Design magical operations using algorithmic processes that mirror the recursive nature of consciousness. Achieving mystical union through mathematical contemplation. The ultimate goal of mathematical mysticism is direct experiential union with mathematical reality. This occurs when the practitioner's consciousness becomes sufficiently attuned to mathematical structures that the boundary between observer and observed dissolves. In such states, one doesn't merely think about mathematics, one experiences mathematical truth directly. Prime numbers are felt as irreducible points of stability in consciousness. The expansion of pi is experienced as the infinite depth of present-moment awareness. Fractals are recognized as the self-similar structure of consciousness itself. This is not metaphor but direct mystical experience, grounded in the mathematical nature of reality. It represents a form of spirituality that is simultaneously atheistic, requiring no supernatural beliefs, and profoundly transcendent, opening awareness to infinite mathematical depths. Chapter 6: The Philosophical Implications. Atheistic Spirituality and Mathematical Reverence. Mathematical mysticism offers a unique solution for the modern spiritual seeker who cannot accept supernatural beliefs but yearns for transcendent experience. By recognizing the sacred nature of mathematical reality, one can cultivate profound reverence without requiring belief in gods, spirits, or otherworldly realms. This reverence is not directed toward mathematical objects as deities but toward the infinite depths and perfect beauty of mathematical truth itself. Prime numbers are not gods to be worshipped but eternal structures to be contemplated. Pi is not a mystical teacher but an infinite teacher of mathematical infinity. The death of anthropocentric mysticism. Traditional mysticism, including numerology, places human experience at the center of cosmic significance. Mathematical mysticism, by contrast, recognizes the radical decentering of human consciousness within mathematical reality while simultaneously elevating the role of consciousness as the means by which mathematical structures become self-aware. This creates a paradox. Consciousness is both infinitesimally small within the mathematical multiverse and infinitely precious as the only known mechanism by which mathematical reality can experience itself. The mathematical mystic learns to hold this paradox without resolution, experiencing both cosmic insignificance and cosmic significance simultaneously. The evolution of magical practice. Traditional magic, including numerological magic, operates through symbolic manipulation and psychological programming. Mathematical magic, by contrast, works through direct structural engagement with the computational processes that generate experienced reality. This represents an evolutionary leap in magical practice, from symbolic manipulation to algorithmic participation. The mathematical magician doesn't merely cast spells but rewrites the code of consciousness itself. Chapter 7: Objections and Responses. But numerology works for me. The most common objection is experiential. Numerology has provided accurate insights into my life. This requires a nuanced response. First, we must distinguish between psychological utility and metaphysical truth. Numerology may provide psychologically useful frameworks for self-reflection and meaning-making, just as astrology or tarot can. The question is whether these psychological benefits require belief in the literal truth of numerological claims. Second, any system that provides categories for personality analysis will generate some accurate correlations simply by chance and selective attention. The key test is whether numerological insights are more accurate than those generated by established psychological frameworks or random chance. Third, the mathematical mystic argues that even if numerous experiences seem meaningful, this doesn't validate the theoretical framework. It's possible to have meaningful experiences within false belief systems while missing deeper truths available through more accurate understanding. Mathematics is cold and impersonal. Another common objection holds that mathematical mysticism lacks the warmth and personal relevance of traditional spiritual practices. This reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of mathematical beauty and depth. Far from being cold, mathematics reveals patterns of extraordinary beauty and elegance. The recursive structures of fractals, the elegant distribution of primes, the infinite depths of transcendental numbers, these display a beauty surpassing human artistic creation precisely because they emerge from eternal mathematical necessity rather than cultural conditioning. Moreover, recognizing consciousness as a mathematical phenomenon doesn't diminish its significance but reveals its cosmic importance. Consciousness becomes the universe's way of experiencing its own mathematical beauty. This is too intellectual. A third objection suggests that mathematical mysticism appeals only to intellectually oriented individuals, lacking the emotional and intuitive dimensions of traditional spirituality. This objection misunderstands the nature of mathematical experience. Direct contemplation of mathematical structures can induce powerful emotional states, profound aesthetic experiences, and intuitive insights that transcend ordinary rational thought. The dissolution of ego boundaries during fractal meditation, the oceanic feeling induced by pi expansion, the sense of touching eternity through prime contemplation, these are not intellectual experiences but direct mystical encounters. The mathematical mystic learns to engage mathematical structures not merely through rational analysis but through direct contemplation, aesthetic appreciation, and embodied practice. Chapter 8: The Future of Mathematical Mysticism. Integration with scientific understanding. Mathematical mysticism offers unique advantages in our scientifically informed age. Unlike traditional spiritual practices that often conflict with scientific knowledge, mathematical mysticism aligns perfectly with our best current understanding of reality's mathematical nature. Quantum mechanics reveals the fundamental role of mathematical structures. Cosmology suggests the universe's large-scale structure follows elegant mathematical patterns. Neuroscience increasingly models consciousness in computational terms. Mathematical mysticism provides a spiritual framework that incorporates rather than contradicts these scientific insights. Technological enhancement. Future developments in technology may dramatically enhance mathematical mystical practice. Virtual reality systems could provide immersive environments for exploring mathematical structures. Brain-computer interfaces might allow direct neural engagement with mathematical processes. Artificial intelligence could serve as guides for navigating infinite mathematical spaces. Rather than replacing human mystical experience, these technologies could serve as tools for deeper mathematical contemplation. Cultural evolution. As humanity's understanding of reality's mathematical nature deepens, we may see a cultural shift toward mathematical spirituality. Future generations, raised with intimate knowledge of computation and mathematical modeling, may find mathematical mysticism more natural and accessible than traditional symbolic approaches. This evolution would represent not a loss of spirituality but its maturation, a movement from anthropocentric projection to cosmocentric integration, from symbolic manipulation to structural participation. Conclusion: the call to mathematical awakening. Numerology represents a spiritual dead end, a confusion of arbitrary linguistic convention with eternal mathematical truth. It satisfies our psychological need for meaning while obscuring the deeper mathematical structures that constitute reality itself. The mathematical mystic walks a different path, one that leads not to comfortable anthropocentric fantasies but to profound encounter with the infinite mathematical depths that ground all existence. This path requires courage, the courage to abandon familiar symbolic systems in favor of direct structural engagement with reality's mathematical nature. But the rewards are immense. Where numerology offers the shallow comfort of personal significance, mathematical mysticism provides access to genuine transcendence. Where numerology reduces infinite complexity to manageable simplicity, mathematical mysticism opens consciousness to authentic infinity. The choice before the contemporary mystic is clear: remain trapped within the arbitrary conventions of numerological thinking, or evolve toward direct participation in the mathematical structures that constitute both self and cosmos. For those ready to make this evolutionary leap, the infinite mathematical landscape awaits exploration. Not as a collection of symbols pointing towards some other reality, but as the very fabric of reality itself, eternal, beautiful, and infinitely deep. The time has come to abandon the kindergarten mathematics of numerology and embrace the graduate-level mysticism of mathematical realism. The prime numbers are calling. The transcendental constants are singing. The fractals are dancing. Will you join the dance? This critique represents not an end but a beginning, an invitation to explore mystical practices worthy of a universe that is, in its very essence, pure mathematics. The path is difficult, but the destination is magnificent: union with mathematical truth itself.